Carns, and this is Living Consciously. Well, you might think, what does that mean, living consciously? I mean, we're all conscious. We're aware of being, and we're awake and alert, looking at the objective world and being ourselves. Aren't we all conscious? Well, there is another level of consciousness. We could say at the one and the same time, it's a deeper way of experiencing life and a higher way of experiencing life. We all have the faculty for being ourselves, but do we have the facility to express ourselves the way we really want to make our dreams come true, to manifest the things that we choose to in this life takes some know-how. So we're talking today about faculty and facility. I was thinking about, to start with, my son, who, when he was a baby, obviously had the faculty of music in him, because when the stereo was on, he would sit there, before he could walk, bopping around. And you've seen YouTube videos of babies dancing like adults. It's incredible. The music is in them. But my son, who now plays many, many different kinds of instruments, had to learn how to facilitate the music he heard in his mind through the instruments that he wanted to play. I'm also thinking of Beethoven. You may have heard this story, apparently a true one. He was a musical prodigy and was writing music when most kids are, learning how to tie their shoes. But he would write music that he was not able to play yet because his fingers were too small, his hands were too little to play his music that he wrote. So he had the faculty, but not the facility. Now, that's true of any artist. They have to learn to mix paint and stretch canvas and perspective, and to get the images in their mind out where they can be seen. And we call it art, right? It takes some training. Well, spirituality, modern spirituality is like that. Now, when I say modern spirituality, I'm really referring to a very open-ended concept of the universe. And it is really not old-time religion, although there are ancient truths that have come down through the ages and appeared in some form or another in most religions, but kind of got buried by other stuff. So we're focusing today on New Thought spirituality. Change your thinking, change your life. Spirituality is a faculty that we have. Now, let's talk about one of our basic tenets in this teaching, which is that God is within us, not somewhere else, all right? So God being a name we use, a word we use to describe infinite intelligence and the creative process always happening. God being us, expressing by means of us. So we have the intellectual faculty to grasp that idea and say, that's interesting. But do we have the facility to access it? So if God is an infinite field of potential, an infinite field of all possibility that is expressed and individualized through the human mind, then we might say we're the instrument we have to learn to play. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? We're the instrument, the mind is an instrument we need to learn how to use in order to facilitate making our dreams come true, or bringing forth, through our own expression, a higher sense of who we are. Maria Montessori, who I know you know who she is, she founded the Montessori schools, and they were really about developing the creativity of the whole child. And she said, children need a more cosmic view of things in order to access, I'm paraphrasing, their innovative mind. In order to be inventive and innovative and creative, they need to start with a great big picture of what life is. And most of us were raised with a fairly narrow picture of what life is, right? You may have been taught that there's such things as good luck and bad luck and the law of averages, and you win some and you lose some, and it's all about knowing the right people, all that stuff. Very limited. But what if you discovered that there really aren't any restrictions or limitations? There are some physical laws, of course, like gravity, but we've even learned to transcend that. We went to the moon, right? We used gravity, we facilitated it in a way to help us get there and back. All right, so if then this mind of ours is the instrument by which the potential, the cosmic potential can be expressed, we need to know more about the cosmic. And that means we need to take a bigger look at things. Most people have got their eyes on the ground. They're looking 2 feet ahead of them and 10 years behind them. But it's training. We have the faculty to co-create with an infinite power a personal life. We do. We learn to facilitate it. And what we're learning to facilitate is our co-creative nature. And that begins with a cosmic view of things. And this is why 21st century prayer, we call it spiritual mind treatment, is structured in the way it is. And the way it's structured is that the very first thing we do, instead of praying to, is to announce the presence of this amazing universal intelligence that's everywhere present, all the time, all of it, all at once. And that we announce that there's only that power, there aren't two powers, there's no conflict going on in the universe. We announce that it is forever forthcoming and never withdrawing. That it is, and is, you know, you could relate this to old scripture. It is constantly pouring us out a blessing. That the kingdom is within that field and in our mind. We announce that there is a perfect life being all life. And that's getting the bigger idea. If you really listen to those words and say them out loud yourself, you will feel lifted. It elevates consciousness. It lifts us out of the law of averages into the law of specification. And it feels like God is listening to us, as it were, because we're co-creating it. We are one with it. So to learn how to think really means to learn how to use your mind, to be the instrument of creativity. We always have to start at the top. And the energy that we're working with is love. Now, love in the sense is not a romantic Valentine card or a human relationship. It's a power of oneness with. I write a daily blog called Living Consciously. You can get it on my website and also on Facebook. But today I wrote about love, specifically being one with. So when we're speaking about the cosmic presence, when we're speaking about God being everywhere all at once, all the time, all of it, then it follows that we are one with it and we are in love with it. We are in the energy field of love with it. You can't be separate from it. If it's all there is, it's the only thing there is, and it's everywhere all at once, all the time, right now, right here. It must be right where I am. You know, this is a really good thing to think through. Because master teachers like Jesus was actually teaching this. And people distorted his teaching. There was a woman named Dorothy Sowell who lived in the early part of the 20th century. She was a theologian, tremendous mind and teacher. And she wrote a lot of books. She said something to the effect of, it's really a shame that Christianity has lost its revolutionary aspect that Jesus was teaching, and that it has fallen into idolatry rather than a teaching. In other words, people worship Jesus, but they don't do what Jesus did, even though he said, these things I do, you can do it more. And he was really saying, learn how to think. Learn how to see the universe in a different way. What I do aren't miracles. They're the way I use my mind. And he was a revolutionary. There is no doubt about it. He was a radical human being, and he was changing the way people saw the big picture. He was trying to lift minds out of what was right in front of us to what's everywhere, that we're immersed in, we're saturated in, that's coming through us. All the teachers did that Buddha, everybody, they all teach that at the core. And then it got distorted because people had a very limited view of themselves. So we're talking about loving God is loving the self. And I don't mean this personality, you can love that too, but I'm talking about, in this sense, the being that you are, the self that you are, the individualization of spirit or God that you are, loving that. And in that sense, you're loving the source of that, because you're one with it, cannot be separate from it. This is the key to manifesting what you really desire in this life, to making your heart's desires come true. We're filming this right before Christmas. It's a few days before, and I hear people talking about the Christmas blues, and I'm not going to tell you to go out and volunteer, because that's the usual answer, and that's a good thing to do, but I'm going to relate it to what I was just speaking about. Instead of thinking about this holiday and who's not with you or who used to be with you, I want you to think about what it's really about. And it is about the self. It is about loving the being that you are. Now, we relate it to a man named Jesus. He was, as I said, it's been distorted, but I think he was a real person, but his life was a metaphor for our life. His life was a depiction of consciousness being elevated from the ordinary to the cosmic. And this time of year, start thinking about who you are in that context. That you're not some random act of nature, and you're not some mistake, and you're not a product of your past. You are the Christ incarnate. I know that sounds a little lofty, but that's the truth. Christ is not his name. Christ means light. It means illumination. It was Jesus the Christ, the illumined one. But it wasn't the only one that'll ever be. No, he was an example of what it means to be human. I've always said Jesus wasn't teaching people to be Christian, and he wasn't teaching people how to be spiritual. He was teaching people how to be human. We're already spiritual, right? I got off track there a little bit, but it's all good. So Christmas blues, no excuse for that. You're thinking too small. And I'm not saying that without compassion, but I don't believe you have to feel that way. I'm all alone. My kids are far away. My daughter just landed in Hawaii yesterday, where we used to live. I'm so jealous. Not really, but And my son's in Canada. We're not going to be together. I'll be by myself. It's fine, because I love myself, and I love the self that's being me, okay? It's a spiritual experience to be a human being. All right, so scientific prayer is structured that we go to the top and we announce what is true, forgetting all about what's going on the local level, because that's not a part of real prayer, is to talk about the problem, because Spirit doesn't know anything about problems. It only knows wholeness. And that's why Maria Montessori said children need a cosmic view of themselves and of their place in the universe. It makes all the difference. Oh, that was a lot. Okay, so we'll do a little how-tos in the next section. We're going to stop now for a minute and let our sponsors have their word, and we thank them in advance for supporting this channel and this program. And come back. We have more to talk about.
This is a national healthcare alert from the Health Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You could qualify for a pain-relieving knee brace at little or no cost to you. Get free delivery, and all the paperwork is handled by our accredited suppliers at no charge to you. We also have other pain-relieving braces available for shoulder, ankle, and your back. Call the number on your screen right now to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call Low Cost Airlines. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call now.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business. According to the secret war, banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get the secret war free. Call the number on your screen or visit online.
All right, we're back, and we're speaking about faculty and facility, about what is innate in us, and it turns out it's everything we want in life. Love is innate in us. It's in us as a faculty of being. So is joy and peace and prosperity and the creative intelligence necessary to bring these things through. Vitality, which is health. All of these things are faculties of mind. I was thinking about the word faculty. Think about it as a staff of teachers, right? Who's on the faculty? So we have a staff of teachers in us, and this is interesting. It's another way to look at it. That the things we have faculty for teach us. We teach ourselves from within. And we were talking before the break about love, that if we start to contemplate love, sit in silence and think about love, not as a human relationship, but as a power, and let ourselves start to feel one with something greater than us that is essentially being us, or right where we are, then love begins to teach us something. It begins to teach us that it's within, it's right here. It doesn't need an object, it will seek one, but we're the first object it seeks. Love seeks validation of its presence in us. That's why you can say, I am love. I am love in action. Love is my constant companion. And you can do that with all the internal teachers, such as joy and vitality and peace and creative intelligence and supply. Let's talk about supply, because that's the one that people usually have trouble with. Like, how does that translate into my bank account? If we begin to see the cosmic picture, the bigger picture of ourselves, and we start to voice it, something like, I have everything I need to be me. I am constantly supplied with all the energies of being that I attribute to joy and happiness. Love is within me, peace is within me, joy is within me, creative ideas are within me, the source of everything is within me. Therefore, I am an instrument through which it can prosper. I am an instrument through which life can reveal its own sufficiency. I am an instrument through which prosperity happens. You see, we're not talking about using your mind to make it happen. We're talking about using your mind to access the source of it and announcing that it is happening now. Now my good has come to me. Now my love is evident. Now my peace is present. You see, you get the difference between asking for something and announcing that it is so, and that you are the instrument through which it can be facilitated. That's a whole different way of seeing life, and it makes all the difference. No more blaming anyone else. No more being a victim. Now you're in the driver's seat. And the beauty of it is that now you're more available to love. And you find ways to express it that land in the world and create more love wherever you are. Check out my blog that I wrote today. It's all about that. It's on carolcarns.com. You can get it there. Or on Facebook. Just Google my name. It was a really good one. I picked up an old book, one of my favorite books. It's about that thick. It's really little. Called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment by Thaddeus Golus. It was written in the 70s, early 72, I think. First time I read it, blew my mind. This is a very brilliant man. Revolutionary, radical in the way he thought about things. And I've always loved this one question he asks, because it is talking about, people having trouble with politicians, leaders, old family members, ex-spouses, and how, well, you can love your cat and your dog and your best friend, but you can't love those people. So his question is, and it's coming from a spiritual perception that we're all one, right? So in some strange cosmic way, they're us. His question is, well, just what was it you thought needed to be loved? Who was it you thought needed to be loved? Your best friend, your dog, your cat, the ones you already love? Or is it those people that you see as less than, that you have a problem with, that you think are responsible for your unhappiness or whatever? You don't like their politics, you don't like what they're doing. It's okay not to like what they're doing, but you can still love them spiritually because it brings more love in the world. And let me tell you something that I know for sure. Love is so powerful. A little of it goes a long way. And it is felt. You know, when we talk about living in a field of consciousness, we mean that quite literally. That's not a metaphor. That's why we can communicate, because we're in the same mind, as it were, same field of consciousness. That's why I can read your mind sometimes, and I know I can see, I know who's calling me on the phone before I pick it up, that kind of thing. I'm thinking back in the day before we had call identity. Anyway, we live in this active field. So when I am feeling love for the very people I see on the news that would usually get me all upset, if I actually say, I'm in love with these people, we are in the field of love together, it ripples through the field. And it is felt. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to suddenly be different, but it will have an impact, especially if you do it every day. Especially if you do it every time you catch yourself separating from them. You know, the source of all unhappiness in our lives is having a sense of being separate from God, from source, from happiness, from joy, from peace, from love, from prosperity, from health, from our heart's desire, from the very thing if we feel separate and apart from the cause of everything, we're going to be very unhappy people. What makes people very happy is realizing causes within. A little love goes a long way. A little acceptance of things as they are is not passivity. One of the other things Golus said is, if you want to change something, love it the way it is. Because resistance is like nailing something down and then expecting it to move. Resistance equals persistence. It's like pushing against something, you're actually propping it up, emotionally or in any other way, physically and emotionally. So we have the faculty to be completely happy right now. And we can facilitate that happening by learning how to use our mind properly, learning how to access the field of happiness that pre-existed our birth. Actually, it's the energy that brought us in, and people call it love. So there are ways to learn this. One of the ways, I would encourage you to read a book called The Science of Mind by Ernst Holmes. Ernst Holmes was a spiritual genius in my book. He lived in the 20th century, hobnobbed with movie stars and senators, and he was very well respected and very well thought of. And he taught people how to facilitate the power of their mind. And he wrote a book called The Science of Mind that is still in print and has never been out of print since he wrote it in 1926. Get on Amazon and get a copy. Then come and see me at the Mesilla Valley Center for Spiritual Living. We meet every Sunday at 10:30 in their wonderful community center. This is what we talk about. This is a teaching, not a preaching. It's all about facilitating your happiness, your health, your prosperity, your better relationships, your feelings about the world, your family, your children, how to teach children this. And it's easier to teach children this because their minds are already cosmic. They're already open. So please come, join us. This is something you'll find a real boon to your life. You can get on my website, carolcarns.com. As I said, you can read my daily blog, Living Consciously. And you can donate to us on our website, www.mvcsl.org or .com. We really are good stewards of the money. We're a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. And you can buy my book, The Way In, at lulu.com. And you can also get it in the ebook version. So I think that covers everything. I wish you the happiest of holidays and look forward to being with you next time as we bring the year to a close. And we'll talk about that next week. All right, take care. Stay tuned in.